Commission meeting of April 1st, 2021. The Plan and Zoning Commission is generally an advisory body to the City Council. The City Council will hold a public hearing and make the final decision on all matters before the Commission and other site plans and subdivision plats, unless denials or conditional approvals thereof are appealed. Please contact the City Clerk or Community Development Department staff at 515-689-9485 for details on council hearings. Applicant will be given 10 minutes to present their request. If applicants wish to share materials not already submitted with the application, please email them to planning@dmgov.org so a staff host may be able to share them on the screen when you present. Proponents and then opponents from the public are then allowed to speak in that order, with each speaker allowed a maximum of 5 minutes. Staff has attempted to compile a list of people who would like to speak on each item. Staff will first call on these people and then will open it up to anyone else who wishes to speak. To request to speak during the hearing, please use the raise hand function on Zoom webinar via internet or dial *9 on your phone. Once permission to speak is given, to unmute and mute, dial *6 on your phone. You will be required to give your name and address for the record prior to speaking. Also, we ask that you keep your microphones and phones on mute unless you've been given the chance to address the commission by the chair. Applicants are then allowed 5 minutes for a rebuttal if any opponent spoke. All comments are to be germane to the item under consideration, and speakers are to maintain a courteous manner. The hearing will then be closed and the commission will discuss and vote on the issue. Items listed on the consent portion of the agenda will not be individually discussed and will be considered for approval in accordance with the recommendation in the staff report, unless an individual present or member of the commission requests that the item be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately under the public hearing agenda. The City of Des Moines is pleased to provide accommodations to individuals or groups with disabilities and encourages participation in city government. Please know that typical accommodations may be limited by emergency requirements as issued by the State of Iowa and the City of Des Moines. Tyler, do we have a quorum?
We do. We can go through roll call real quick.
Okay.
Abby Chunga?
Here.
Rocky Spizzato?
Here.
Will Page?
Here.
Johnny Alcivar?
Here.
Emily Webb?
Upstairs is just like the TV in the kitchen.
Emily Webb?
Here.
Answer that.
Dory Briles?
Here.
Jan Freed?
Well, it's not simple to me. So call me
Kayla
anytime.
Bergson?
Here.
Lisa Howard?
Here.
Steve Wallace?
Here.
Carolyn Jennison? I don't see her on here. Francis Bogerson going to be with us tonight. Greg Wattier?
Here.
And Greg Jones?
Here.
We have 12 present.
Thank you, Tyler. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting?
Dory, this is Jan. I'll move.
Thank you, Jan.
All right, Rocky Spizzato?
Abstain.
Will Page?
Abstain.
Johnny Alcivar?
Yes.
Dory Briles?
Yes.
Emily Webb?
Yes.
Jan Freed?
Yes.
Kayla Bergson?
Yes.
Lisa Howard?
Abstain.
Steve Wallace?
Yes.
Greg Wattier?
Abstain.
Abby That motion carries 8-4.
Thank you, Tyler. We'll now go through the consent agenda items. There are 6. I'll read through each one individually and ask if anyone in the present or on the commission would like to hear them. That means they would then be pulled and moved to the public agenda. Item number 1 is a request from AHEPA Management Company for the property located at 1111 East Army Post Road. Is there anyone present who wishes to have this item pulled from the consent agenda?
This is Eric Lundy. They need to raise their hand, or if they're on a phone, use *9.
Do you see anybody?
Not seeing any hands, Chair.
Okay, is there anyone on the commission who would like to have this item pulled from consent? If not, this one will stay on consent. Item number 2 is a request from Cassandra C. Johnson Revocable Trust for review and approval of a public hearing site plan for property located at 3365 McKinley Avenue. Do we have any members of the public that wish to have this item heard this evening, or have it
Raise your hand, use the raise hand function on Zoom, or if you're on your phone, press *9.
Not seeing any hands, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Jason.
Oh, wait, I take it back. We have a James Nicholson. Let me just confirm. James, I've given you the ability to talk. If you can unmute yourself, can you confirm that item 2 is what you're raising your hand about, please? Just so we want to make sure we got the right item. James, you should be able to unmute yourself.
*6,
Okay.
and yeah.
I think he's lowered his hand, so maybe he wasn't here for item 2.
Okay, thank you. Is anyone on the commission wish to have item 2 pulled from the consent agenda? If not, that one will remain. Item number 3 is a request from MDM Equity 2010 LLC for review and approval of a public hearing site plan, Power and Tell, for a Type 2 design alternative for property located at 6109 Park Avenue. Is there anyone present who would like to have this pulled from the consent agenda and heard during the public section of the meeting?
I'm not seeing any hands,
Use
Chair.
the raise hand function or *9.
Okay, if we have no one for that, is anybody on the commission wish to hear that item? Okay, we'll now go to item number 4 on the consent agenda, request from River Point West LLC for development of a 132-unit independent living senior household living dwelling project proposed for 400 Southwest 11th Street. Do we have a member of the public that would like this pulled from the consent agenda?
Not seeing any hands, Chair.
Thank you. Any members of the commission that would like that item pulled from consent? If not, item 3 remains. 4 remains. Item 5 is a request from Signature Flight Support for review and approval of a public hearing site plan, Signature DSM, new terminal and hangar for property located at 6213 Southwest 28th Street. Is there anyone present who would like to hear this item tonight?
Raise your hand or the *9 on your phone.
Anyone on the commission that would like to see items 5 pulled? Okay, we'll move on to item number 6, a request from Lucky Gal 1 Inc., for review and approval of a public hearing site plan Lucky Gal Tattoo for a Type 2 design alternative for property at 3104 Southwest 9th Street. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to have this item pulled from consent? Do you see any?
No, there are no hands, Chair.
Okay, anyone on the commission? If not, we have items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 on consent. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
This is Emily Webb. I'll move.
Thank you, Emily. Okay, Abby Chungus,
Yes.
Will Page,
Yes.
Rocky Spizzato,
Yes.
Johnny Alcivar,
Yes.
Emily Webb,
Yes.
Dory Briles,
Yes.
Jan Fareed,
Yes.
Caleb Bergson,
Yes.
Lisa Howard,
Yes.
Steve Wallace,
Yes.
Carolyn Jennison, I see you're with us now.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Greg Wattier
Yes.
and Greg Jones.
Yes.
Motion carries 13-0.
Thank you, Tyler. We now have 3 items that both the applicants and staff are recommending be continued to future meetings. Item number 11 is a request from Hubble Realty Company for review and approval of a 10th Amendment to Riverwoods Legacy PUD conceptual plan. And they are asking, and staff are recommending, that this item be continued to April 15th. Is there anyone in the public that wishes to hear this item this evening?
If they're going to continue it, then we wouldn't hear it. So
Okay. So
I don't really think we give the public the option. I guess they just need to be aware that we're considering that for.
okay, thank you, Eric. So item 11 is asked for a continuance to April 15th. And we'd like to have a motion on this one separately. Is there a motion to continue this item to April 15th?
Yeah, Jan, I'll move it.
Thank you, Jan.
Johnny Alcivar,
Yes.
Emily Webb,
Yes.
Dory Briles,
Yes.
Jan Fareed,
Yes.
Caleb Bergson,
Yes.
Lisa Howard,
Yes.
Steve Wallace,
Yes.
Carolyn Jennison,
Yes.
Greg Wattier,
Yes.
Greg Jones,
Yes.
Abby Chungus,
Yes.
Rocky Spizzato,
Yes.
and Will Page.
Yes.
So motion to continue item 11 to April 15th meeting carries 13-0.
Thank you. Item number 12 and 13 have both been recommended to be continued to the May 6th meeting. Item 12 is a request from Menard for the property located at 5907 Southeast 8th Street and 801 Hart Avenue. And we can do these in one single motion. Number 13 is a request from TK Development LLC owner for review and approval of a 3rd amendment at the Southwoods Estate in the vicinity of 5730 Rose Avenue. Is there a motion to continue items 12 and 13 to the May 6th meeting?
Hey, Madam Chair.
Yes.
This is Bert Dross with the city's planning staff. If I may interject. On item number 12, our staff recommendation in the packet was recommending continuance till April 15th. However, they do need to submit some additional documentation that we have not received yet. And that is why we are now recommending it be continued to May 6th instead of April 15th, as previously noted.
Thank you, Bert.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to continue these two items to May 6th?
This is Abby. I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Abby.
All right, Emily Webb,
Yes.
Dory Briles,
Yes.
Jan Freed,
Yes.
Kayla Bergson,
Yes.
Lisa Howard,
Yes.
Steve Wallace,
Yes.
Carolyn Jennison,
Yes.
Greg Wattier,
Yes.
Greg Jones,
Yes.
Abby Chungeth,
Yes.
Rocky Sposato,
Yes.
Will Page,
Yes.
and Johnny Alcivar.
Yes.
Motion to continue items 12 and 13 to the May 6th meeting carries 13-0.
Thank you, Tyler. So we now have 4 items for the public hearing agenda, items 7, 8, 9, and 10. Item 7 is a request from Justin Raymond for review and approval of a public hearing site plan for property located at 4215 Southeast 17th Street to allow installation and construction of a manufactured home in accordance with House B building type requirements.
Chair, members of the commission, Jason Van Essen with the city's planning staff. Just give me a second here to switch the screen to my presentation. There we go. I think it pulled through. This item was continued from the March 4th meeting. I'll be streamlined with my presentation here. Before I get started, I do want to just acknowledge that Justin Raymond and thank him for meeting with staff. As you may recall, this item, as you can see on the agenda list, you can see several items struck out, and you can see that there was a long list of relief that was requested. When he met with us, he had done a fair amount of work, came to us with, kind of trying to address the concerns that the commission raised, and I appreciate his effort, and it certainly is leading to me being able to give you a very brief presentation. So the only thing I would add is that we did have to add one additional point of relief, which was to add some side yard setback relief, and that has to do with how the house is going to be oriented, and I'll show that to you here in a minute. So this is the subject property on the east side of the street, irregularly shaped. I'm not going to spend a lot of time giving you photographs, but what I will do is jump to this sheet here. Shows the site plan as you saw it at the last meeting, with the house was going to sit sideways, really wasn't going to have a front presence that we would expect. And that really was leading to a lot of need for relief. This is the new proposal. It's the same model. Be oriented towards the street the long way. The driveway would move. A shed is proposed now. And I don't want to speak for Justin, but that he felt that would fit into his budget. There had been a door that was going to be on a side facade. It worked with the manufacturer to get that relocated to the rear. So that created some flexibility. You can see a kind of a front deck is proposed on the front with the sidewalk connection. We've been visiting with him about street trees. I think we've got that sorted out with him. Actually, we pulled that off the agenda. Just quickly, this was the floor plan. Previously, there had been a door in the side, and this was going to be the part that faced the street. Now this would be the front. Just some graphics. Since our last meeting, he did provide some extra images showing some of the detail that would be provided in the front with shutters. This doesn't exactly show a light fixture, but there is intended to be a light fixture, and this is the mount for it that would come. So there would be a light fixture in the front, giving a little articulation. An updated sketch for his front deck. So we wouldn't have a porch in the sense it'd be rough, but a deck would be provided. We can come back to these, but this is some additional information that he provided. If we need to come back to it in his presentation, we can do so. Just some character in the area. In our staff report, we just provided you an update. in short, we're recommending approval of everything. There was one aspect that kept this from going to the consent, and really it's more of, we wanted an opportunity to get input from the commission and have kind of open dialogue on the waiver of Part F, which is that 100% vinyl. We've seen that with other applications, and often when we're looking at that, the way to get around that is either like a cross gable element or a front porch, and the code gives us some flexibility. In this case, you know, in talking with Justin, that's not something, he did explore that. I believe, I don't want to speak for him, but I believe to add that element was going to get him out of his budget. We felt that it was important to kind of bring that to your attention and see what your thoughts were on improving this. And so the way we've written this is we're suggesting, you know, some sort of element like that should be provided unless the commission determines that it's not reasonable to require it in this particular case. I do think the setting and the environment is unique in this neighborhood. It is a rural cross-section. There are other manufactured homes in this particular neighborhood that have similar character. So I think that, I don't know that I would call this any sort of precedent setting where we might be weakening our position as we look at other cases. But we just wanted to bring it to your attention. Consent map, just anecdotally, the neighbor to the south that would be most impacted by the new relief needed for the setback is related to the applicant. So I think they've got that sorted out. But I'm happy in answering questions you have for me. I know I saw Justin's name in the list of attendees, so we certainly can turn things over to him as well.
If the commission doesn't have any questions for Jason at this time, can we hear from the applicant?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Justin Raymond. I live at 4235 Southeast 17th Street. And good evening. I asked for the commission to approve the staff recommendations above with the exception of the provision for the gable, bump out, or roofed pit for the reasons Jason mentioned. That will be the changes made already, and the project is over budget with that. And if it fits in the immediate houses around the property.
Enters the transfer portal. Yesufu's
Thank you.
In the NCAA tournament turned heads and dropped jaws. After starting point guard Ross broke his foot, Yesufu.
Sounds like somebody's TV's on or needs a mute.
Someone's muted. Oh, is there anyone else who wishes to speak in support of the applicant tonight? See any hands?
I'm not seeing any hands, so yes, use the raise hand function or *9 on your phone. No hands, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to this request?
I'm not seeing any hands for that either.
Okay. So any questions for city staff? So could you repeat again the item number 4, the way it's listed now? You're recommending approval to the provision of a cross gable bump out. So are you saying you are or are not going to require that?
I'm sorry, I had a cut in my internet. Was that a question for me, Chair?
Yes. So explain item 4 again. So
Sure. We're asking for the commission to weigh in, and maybe the wording in the staff report isn't as clear. I was wanting to just make sure that the commission had an opportunity to weigh in on that. And if there's no concerns on your part, I would just move approval of the staff rec and strike that condition. Approval, all striking that. So let me switch that. I'm sorry, when I lost my internet connection there briefly, it totally threw me off. We have a VPN connection that IT just recently made. It'll kick you off after so many hours, and I wasn't prepared for that. So if the commission is comfortable with the proposal, I would move staff recommendation, but on part F, I would strike the condition. So just say approval of part F as proposed.
Okay. Is there a motion or discussion from commissioners?
Madam Chair, this is Will Page here. I think Jason explained well the rationale for waiving this vinyl requirement, particularly because other houses in the neighborhood are plain and rather simple in design. And the major, at least in my opinion, concern about the front facade facing the street has been satisfied. So, and also since Jason has said that he doesn't think this will be a precedent in other requests that might come to the commission asking for a waiver just because this particular house had a 100% vinyl siding waiver, I move the approval of this item striking F, which would otherwise require this particular architectural design element.
Thank you, Will. Any other discussion?
Madam Chair, this is Greg Jones. I would just like to commend Justin and staff for mostly Justin for adjusting his proposals so he met most of the requirements, and staff for agreeing that really was the object. And so I'd just like to commend him, and I agree with Will that we should just allow it in this case.
Thank you. If there's
all right. Oh, sorry.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, shall we have a vote?
Yeah. Kayla Bergson,
Yes.
Lisa Howard,
Yes.
Steve Wallace,
Yes.
Carolyn Jennison,
Yes.
Greg Wattier,
Yes.
Greg Jones,
Yes.
Abby Chungith,
Yes.
Rocky Spizzato,
Yes.
Will Page,
Yes.
Johnny Alcivar,
Yes.
Emily Webb,
Yes.
Dory Briles,
Yes.
and Jan Freed.
Yes.
Motion carries 13-0.
Thank you. We're now ready for item number 8, which is a request from Corey and Kristen Schooley for a public hearing site plan for type 2 design alternatives for property located at 4841 Algonquin Road. And I believe Anu is going to present.
That's correct. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Commission. This is Anupreet Minhas, platter with the City of Des Moines. And it looks like I might have been disabled to screen share. So if somebody from staff can allow me to do that. Tyler, could you?
Yeah, Tyler, are you making that happen?
For some reason, it's not giving me the option to.
All right, let me see if I can make it work.
I made her a co-host.
There you go. You should be good to go, Anu. Sorry about that, everybody.
Perfect. Okay. Give me a quick second here. I'm going to pull this up. Jason, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, everyone again. This next item on the agenda is a request for type 2 design alternatives to allow construction of an addition, a pool house, and an in-ground pool at the subject site, which is a residential property at 4841 Algonquin Road. The three requests are relief for total side yard setback requirement, waiver of full depth basement under the addition, and waiver of the 5-foot rear yard setback requirement for the pool house up at the north. The property is located in Waveland Park neighborhood. As you can see, it's along the north side of Algonquin Road, and adjoins Waveland Golf Course on the west. It is a little difficult to see here, but I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. As you can see here, the property is, existing building sits right on the property line on the west. And this will come into play a little later in the presentation, but I just wanted you to be aware that the existing building sort of sits on and over the property line. Here is the front view of the house taken from Algonquin Road. We have the Waveland Golf Courses on the west and to the left of this picture here. The applicant is proposing a master suite addition on the northeast corner of the existing house. It would be built without a basement and an east side yard setback of 10.46 feet. While the proposal meets the 7.5-foot minimum requirement for interior side yard setback on the one side, it does not meet the total side yard setback of 22.5 feet. The existing house here sits on and over the property line to the west and is considered as a zero setback on the west. There's an existing easement on the property that the property owner has with the city, and this portion of the house, as well as the existing part of the existing driveway, sit on city land. The applicant is also proposing an in-ground pool in the north rear yard and a pool house, which would be located with a zero setback along the north property line. An existing greenhouse on the northwest corner of the lot would be removed as part of this project. Here is a plan view of the proposed master suite with connection to the existing house. Some details of the project and elevations, few construction details and elevations. The south elevation faces Algonquin Road and the east elevation faces the east property. Both would be built with brick facade to match the existing building. This is what you would see from the north pool house side or the north property. The plan for the pool house, here you can see the back wall sits flushed, would sit flushed with the north property line. This is the facade. This is the facade that would be visible to the property owner on the north. And this would be the elevation of the facade that would be visible from the applicant's property and the house. The section here shows just a section across the pool house, which shows a shed-like roof that would be sloped away from the rest, from the applicant's property and would be sloped towards the north property line here. This portion here would be part of the north property owner. As I mentioned earlier, this property owner has an easement with the city up here on the west, which allows a portion of the existing house and a portion of the driveway to sit on city-owned land. This is essentially what is creating that zero setback that I spoke about earlier, which affects the total setback that comes into play on the request. A couple more pictures. This is from the southeast corner and Algonquin Road. The proposed addition would be sitting right here in the northeast corner. This is the neighbor's property, and the white house or structure you see is the property on the north lot. A second picture, this shows from the southwest corner. This is Waveland Golf Course, and this portion right here is what is on the easement. The applicant has submitted his rationale for the request, which should have been included in your packet. The primary purpose is to make the existing house more functional for the family. The owner mentions the presence of a circular staircase inside the house, which basically is creating a little bit of usability issues and the need for that additional master suite on the northeast corner. The project manager has also submitted a narrative with the application, which basically cites the need for reasonable space around the pool for movement, and the northeast side of the property being the most feasible spot for the addition, which would affect the setback. And lastly, the fact that the existing house is built with a basement, and the family would like to not add increased expense of providing one under the addition. The addition would otherwise be built with design and materials that blend with and complement the existing house. The staff report essentially presents the different code sections that apply to the project. The analysis basically shows if as you go down, staff is recommending approval of parts A and B of the request, and is recommending denial of part 3, which is the siting of the pool house within zero setback of the north property line. While the addition would be closer to the east property line, it would still meet and be over the minimum side yard requirement, which is 7.5 feet on any one side. And it would not alter the side yards setback situation on the west at all, which kind of supports the relief requested for the total setback. The existing house otherwise meets the minimum building width and area requirements, and is constructed with a full depth basement under the existing house. The addition, as has been proposed to be built with, again, like I said, be built with design and materials that match the existing house. So staff believes the lack of basement on the addition would not have any sort of negative impact on either the house or the neighborhood, but in fact would work well with blending and meeting the intent of the code. Staff is recommending denial of the zero setback on the pool house. We think that it might pose challenges both with maintenance and would bring the pool house much closer to the existing house on the north lot, as well as to the garage on the property on the north. We did receive a few letters in support from neighbors on the project, including one from the neighbor directly on the north that would be most impacted by the location of the pool house. Here's the consent map, which shows the letters that have been received. We also received one more letter from the neighbor on this corner, but because it was not signed, we do not get to include it in the consent map. That's kind of the end of my presentation from my side, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I think the applicant as well as the project manager both on the call, and they could probably provide more answers to any specific questions you may have for them.
Thank you, Anu. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Yeah, this is Greg Wattier. I got a question for staff. I think one of the concerns I would have with the pool building is the way the roof is designed, dumping water, ice, and snow on the adjacent property. I don't know the grading back there. I don't know how any of that works. But generally speaking, it's not a good idea to add impervious roof and dump it on someone else's property. So that would be a concern. And I wonder if staff, I didn't really hear you talk about that, if that was discussed with the applicant. The other issue would be if you build on a property line, just fire ratings and things, but it looks like they're well on their way if they build a block wall, and building permit would figure that out. Can you address water drainage?
Yeah, so we did discuss this with the applicant, and I'm sure Corey can answer to that directly as well. But I believe his suggestion was that he would add in a gutter to the shed roof so that it keeps the water away from the neighbor's property. Also had earlier a conversation with the PDC staff, permit and development staff, who have said that the current 8-inch CMU wall that is proposed would adequately meet any fire separation or fire code requirements, so that should be helpful. The other piece we did also discuss was just the foundation on the shed, and so long as the foundation is inside or on the property line or within the applicant's property, that would also be adequate again.
Yeah, they'd have to waterproof the backside of that wall and add a drain tile and get all that on their property, technically.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's my concern, is designing a roof form that deliberately wants to shed water to someone else's property. Thanks.
Sure.
If we don't, go
Dory,
ahead.
I have a question. This is Greg Jones. So if, from staff's point of view, if 0 feet is not enough, what number is? 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet?
The code requires a 5-foot separation or a 5-foot setback from any accessory structure to the property line, which is what staff would recommend in every given time. This item is continued from the March 18th PNC meeting, and at that point, the property owner had wanted and proposed a 2.5 feet setback, and staff was recommending approval of that request at the March 18th meeting, but the applicant has come back and asked for it to be placed at the lot line. So yes, as a matter of consistency, I think that, as well as challenges with maintenance, those are two of the key pieces that staff is sort of using it to recommend denial. But I think with the meeting of the fire code and any other conditions that commission might consider to weigh in while making this decision.
If there are no other questions for Anu, is the applicant ready to speak?
Jason, I think.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
My name is Jason Bogus with Lair Homes. We're the contractor involved in planning right now to perform on the project. And thank you, Anu, for presenting everything that you did. And I figured I'd just chime in quickly in response to the concerns that were brought up, which obviously are very legitimate concerns. All in all, we're trying to just allow the Schooley family to have everything that they're desiring here. And obviously as a builder, be conscious of how it impacts the neighbors and everything that's involved with that. Obviously, the new drawings with the proposed 0 setback on the pool house show the firewall, which we're conscious of, and making sure to adhere to the fire issues there. As far as the drainage goes, we would definitely have a gutter on the back that would go to a drain tile and shed water to the Schooley's property. We do have a overall drainage with the pool and the amount of concrete that's going to be in the backyard. And it being somewhat of it's obviously a challenging lot in and of itself, but most of the water from the neighbor to the north and the neighbor to the east actually kind of sheds to the Schooley's property as it is. So just the way the shape of the land is back there and the way everything drains, it kind of all wants to drain towards that west corner, towards Waveland Golf Course down there to the southwest corner. So our intent, we've got a overall drainage plan in place with gutters, and even the Schooley's house currently has some inadequacies as far as that goes. So we've got a plan in place just from the overall property perspective with the amount of concrete in the pool, et cetera, that's going in the backyard to make sure that water's drained properly. So we're very conscious of that. I think in the end, with the yard being what it is and the ability to get the pool and the pool house and the addition and everything fit onto the lot, to where it makes sense from a spacing perspective. The idea with moving the pool house back that extra 2.5 feet was just to allow a little more room around the pool, maybe allow another foot in size of the pool house, and just overall allow for a little bit more space to make everything back there a bit more functional. So appreciate the concerns that were brought up. Happy to address anything else that does come up. If Corey's on the call, he's welcome to chime in here too, but just wanted to address from a construction standpoint that we're taking all of those things into consideration and planning effectively up front before construction starts to make sure that we're handling everything effectively. So that is all I have.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in support of the request?
Madam Chair, there's a phone number, but we need their name and address so we can enter their screen name.
So it's
515-306-0500. We need your name. You have to unmute pressing *6. And now they're not raising their hand, so I don't know if they don't want to speak. If you do wish to speak, we need your name. 515-306-0500.
I think we can assume that they've changed their mind.
Other than that, I don't see any hands raised. If people need to raise their hand, press *9 on your phone or the raise hand function on Zoom. Now they're back. So they need to unmute by pressing *6 on their phone and give their name.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, please give your name.
Hello, I'm the property owner. My name is Corey Schooley. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm sorry about my technical difficulties. I apologize. I was pushing pound. Yes, I would like to speak. Is this my opportunity?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. First of all, thank you, Anu. Great explanation of the conversation and some of the mitigating factors that we're putting in place for the drainage and the property line. And thank you, Jason, for providing that detail as well. We've taken a lot of time to plan this this whole addition and the dream of the pool house to the pool. And as Anu pointed out, right, we did have that 2.6 foot setback that was approved, and we really were looking to just add a few other extra feet to really make that pool house really usable. As you kind of can see, we were dealing with some challenges with the easement area. That's really kind of affecting where we can put everything in that backyard, and it's not too much of a yard to begin with. So we did make sure to share our plans with pretty much everybody in the neighborhood, and made sure specifically to the north and the east that they were approving really everything that we're doing, showing them our plans. So I know that the easement has kind of been called out already. We're working with Ben Page over at the Parks Department with some further details with that. So I'm really trying to build a relationship here with the parks. And with this, the back of the pool house that close, I guess I just want to be clear, there is a property line and we're really going to follow the fence line. So I think the fence line is, I think it's whatever it is, technically an inch or two in. So we don't want to disrupt our neighbor's yard at all. We're just really looking for an extra few feet. And that really will help kind of mitigate some of the other issues, because we're also going to build a fence, and it'll help kind of mitigate some of the golf balls that tend to come over there. And we do have long-term plans of kind of putting a net between our house and our pool house, really to kind of get that full coverage eventually. But I also want to say that, I worked with the city pretty extensively over the past year. I made sure to inform the Wayland Park neighborhood, Jeannie Alexander over there last year, about our plan. I think that's it. I'd really like to be able to utilize that extra square footage. So just like the opportunity to do that. So thanks for your time today. And I think that's it.
Thank you, Corey. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in support of the request? So if we don't see anyone else, is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the request?
Use the raise hand function or press *9 on your phone.
Not seeing any.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions for city staff from the commission? If not, we can close and go into the public hearing at this time, or do you have any questions for the property owner? If not, we will close the public hearing, and commissioners, it's time for us to discuss.
Greg Wattier, just got a few thoughts to throw out there for the board, maybe start a discussion. I think the addition on the east side has some merit, and I think staff's approval of that helps. I'm struggling with the pool building. It just really, I'm not feeling the hardship. I'm not really seeing the reasons to approve the variance. It appears to be just because it makes it better. And I don't know that that's necessarily the case or our charge to solve or approve. So I'm kind of struggling with that. And even though the north property owner seems fine with it, we all know these things go with properties, not with people. And it just creates a little bit of an encumbrance on the north property to force that building up to the property line. So not sure I'm there. Thanks.
Dory, this is Greg Jones. I agree with the other Greg. I don't know what the number is. That's why I asked what staff would agree to. I think 5 feet is way more than enough, but I think 0 is not enough. And so whether it's 2.5, I think that's more than adequate, to tell you the truth. But I certainly would be happier with some number between 2.5 and 0.
This is Jan, and I kind of want to chime in with
Jan, you're breaking up.
Is there a way to? Well, I just said my main point is can we compromise? I kind of agree with Greg. Both Greg.
Dory, this is Will Page here. I don't know if Jan's still talking or not, but she can butt in if she wishes to. I tend to think that the property owner has already agreed to 2.5, and that is a number between what Greg Jones was suggesting, and also it would go along with what Greg Wattier suggested. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, like this is Dory. I guess I'm in agreement with Will that at one time there was agreement on the 2.5. There's also a greenhouse that looks very close to that property line that will be torn down, but currently sits very close to that property line as well.
Since the commission's in deliberation, only the commissioners can discuss this item at this point. So this is Eric. I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you, Eric.
If the board is interested, I'd be willing to make a motion unless there's other discussion.
I'd say go ahead, Greg.
I'd make a motion to agree with staff on parts A and B, but I also would take part C and modify it, that there's a minimum 2.5 foot setback on the north for the pool building, would be my motion.
Thank you, Greg. Is there any further discussion? If no further discussion, we could have a vote.
Okay, Lisa Howard,
Yes.
Steve Wallace,
Yes.
Carolyn Jennison,
Yes.
Greg Wattier,
Yes.
Greg Jones,
Yes.
Abby Chungith,
Yes.
Rocky Spazzato,
I'm recused.
Will Page,
Yes.
Johnny Alcivar,
Yes.
Emily Webb,
Yes.
Dory Browse,
Yes.
Jan Freed,
Yes.
and Kayla Berkson.
Yes.
That motion would carry 12-0-1.
Thank you, Tyler. We're now ready for item number 9, which is a request from Fairway Stores for property located at 2723 41st Place. And the subject property is currently owned by Melvin and Connie Wood. And Eric will be presenting tonight.
Yes, Madam Chair, Eric Lundy, Senior City Planner. So this is a follow-up on behalf of Fairway Stores to further the project. They recently rezoned the balance of their site a while, and that's in the zoning history, but to the MX3 that allowed them then to go to the Board of Adjustment and request the ability to have a conditional use for sale of liquor, wine, and beer for off-premise consumption. And in the review of their site plan, then they encountered resistance on the part of traffic engineering to allow their configuration of their North Drive exiting with a median cut in Urbandale Avenue. So if you see the map here, I'm showing the existing MX3 portion Initially, they had proposed a drive in this location that would, and they were of the hope that traffic would allow a median connection here or cut through here, so property could go westbound on Urbandale, leaving the site. Since that did not occur, and that didn't look very realistic that traffic engineering was going to support that, then they've since made offer with this property owner to have a rezoning of this property to incorporate that into the site that would allow them a drive onto 41st Place that would then allow the median cut at the intersection of 41st Place with Urbandale Avenue. This is looking at the property from looking south at the home that's there now in the garage. 41st Place is on the right, Urbandale in the foreground with the boulevard in the middle. We're kind of zooming in a little closer. This is at 41st Place, just south of Urbandale Avenue, looking east. In the background, you can see the traffic lights that are at the intersection of Urbandale Avenue and Beaver Avenue. And this is looking more to the southeast from that same location. And then looking at the south edge of the property straight east, you can see the building just to the south of the property that Fairway intends to develop with their store. This is a general layout that they are wanting to allow this drive entrance onto 41st Place by rezoning the property to incorporate it into the site. That would change their circulation internally to what I'm doing right now, and they would still use the north-south alley and still have that egress for a right, basically a right out, right in only. And we can go back to that if the commission needs to see that. Again, traffic has looked at this, and I think you'll hear concerns from the neighbors that are the residential owners along 41st Place that, you know, this is obviously going to change that traffic pattern to put commercial vehicles onto 41st Place with this proposal. So that's of concern. Traffic engineering has done analysis and does not believe that the trips that would use that drive entrance would really be a burden to the neighborhood as much, but would have a relief to get out onto Urbandale and go westbound would be the big movement occurring there. Based on that, staff is supportive of the future land use amendment and rezoning to incorporate it into that site. You are going to also get the site plan in front of you at on a future meeting, I believe, actually on the next Plan and Zoning Commission meeting for the actual site consideration with a couple of design alternatives. So just to give you that heads up. Staff is recommending approval of the rezoning from N4 to MX3. We do want to allow that the only permitted and conditional uses in MX3 be those that require them to have the conditional use for sale of alcoholic liquor and other uses in common with the MX1 mixed use district as limited in the MX1 mixed use district, and that accessory structures be limited to drive-through facility and those permitted in the MX1 mixed use district per the accessory structures table, which is table 135-2.22-1. These are the same conditions that were accepted onto the existing MX3 property. So this would align with the existing zoning of the remainder of the site. We got a number of cards. And if you need to look at any of these more closely, let me know and I will scroll back to them. We got a letter from David DeBoard, and I'll leave this up for a couple seconds here for you to read through this. This is a letter we received from the Beaverdale Board of Directors. I'm sorry, there it is. And then they also provided their resolution of their association in support of the rezoning. This is the consent map that has the two in opposition. I don't believe David DeBoard's within the area, so his letter wouldn't show on this map, but is still part of the record. Are there any questions for staff at this point?
Hello, Eric. It's Greg Wattier. I was looking, what's the name of the building? I always thought of it as like Joe's Place or something over across from Christopher's, the new, well, I say new, relatively new building.
Judas Essie Square.
The one that
Joe's
has
Square. Yeah, Joe's Square. Yeah. Yep, Joe's Square.
That one seems to have access onto Fagan Drive. And in other words, I don't know that there are some of these other properties that I think do peel off onto a little bit on a couple of the side streets. Is that an accurate statement or not?
Yeah, certainly there's some that have depth into the neighborhood in that fashion, like on Fagan. Then the bank on the south side of Fagan also has parking that would extend back towards the neighborhood and has access onto the residential street there. So.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
I don't have anything further if the chair wants to open the hearing.
Yes, if we could hear from the applicant.
The applicant was present on the participant list here. Looks like Kobe Pritchard is raising his hand. Kobe, you can unmute.
Eric, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, thanks. Kobe Pritchard, Fairway Stores, 715 8th Street, Boone, Iowa. Just real quick, I wanted to thank Eric, first of all. Thanks for recapping kind of how we got to where we are with this change. And specifically, we wanted to make sure and thank just city staff in general, just because we've kind of been navigating through this process to make this project work. And Beaverdale Neighborhood Association, they've been really, really good to work with as we have kind of jumped through some obstacles here and tried to get creative, like I said before, and also just kind of the surrounding Beaverdale neighborhood. They've been very supportive of Fairway and what we're wanting to do, especially with this being our first meat market in the metro. So with that, I just wanted to thank the group and let everyone know I'm here to answer any questions on behalf of Fairway. And we also have Tim West here with Snyder and Associates, who can kind of assist if there's questions on specific site plan questions. So with that, I'll answer any questions you guys have. Thanks.
Hello, this is Greg Wattier. I wouldn't mind seeing a site plan again and having someone explain deliveries in and out, kind of trucks, how big a trucks, all that kind of stuff. I know with these smaller stores, sometimes you guys max out size of truck. And if you could explain that, that would be just how they would navigate to the building and from the building. That would be great.
Yeah, I think the intent there is the alleyway access. That would be kind of designated for and required for the commercial traffic. And that's mostly to avoid any of that truck traffic or delivery traffic from going on the residential area. So that's kind of why it's important. I think we're planning on making sure we have something designating no commercial traffic on that access point too. And as far as size of trucks for deliveries, this would not be our full semis like you'd see at a typical Fairway. This would kind of be the smaller pup truck. So if that answers the questions, we're planning for that to be specifically put to the alley and then avoid having them use the residential drive.
So I'm not sure. Thank you. That helps. Eric, if the board were interested in making that, memorializing what he said, that no truck commercial traffic went out to 41st, would that be at this step or at a site plan step, or where would that be if the board wanted that?
Greg, this is Jason Van Essen with planning staff. I would recommend that be a zoning condition. I think that has more teeth than.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Are there any other speakers to speak in support of this request this evening? Do you see any staff? Do you see anybody else who wishes to speak in support?
I'm not right now. If you are wanting to speak in support, raise hand or *9 on your phone. I'm not seeing any, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Jason. We'll open it up to anyone that wishes to speak in opposition to the request this evening.
And once again, that would be raise hand function or *9 on your phone. We do have a David DeBoer, and if he wants to unmute himself, he has the ability to speak.
Thank you, Jason.
Can I speak now?
Yes, go ahead and state your.
First of all, let me say that I was one of the initial supporters of Fairway. I think it's a good company, and their initial plan was fabulous.
David, before you get...
Mister, could you use your name, give your name and address for the record?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
I live at 2700 41st Place, which was just outside that bubble that you showed of people that you informed about this latest change. The previous rezoning I did get information. If you look down below Jonathan Lensing, I'm just below, one or two houses just below that. The original purchase of this site by Fairway was in July of 2020. And what they purchased was the bank property, what it says, and the other two Fairway ones on the west side of the alley. So they bought the existing bank building and those two buildings there. Then what happened, since I have experience with land planning, rezonings, that sort of thing, there was an old term that used to be called bait and switch, where you go through an initial process, you make a change that is not controversial, but it allows you to get a foothold. And then later, when you don't have to inform quite as many people, you make that next little change, which includes, in this particular case, buying a Beaverdale house, a Beaverdale brick house, and tearing it down, putting a driveway and parking access onto a very quiet residential street, and changing the neighborhood. And it's interesting to me that the original plan that got approved a month or two ago had essentially used the existing parking that's on the site right now. They put some new parking on the west side of the building, which I think is fabulous, and they had some more parking that was in the existing parking that was for the bank. With this new proposal that extends the parking to the west to 41st Street, essentially what happens is the existing parking for the bank was 26 parking stalls. This new parking that they're extending to 41st Street has 30 parking stalls. So they've added 4 parking stalls in total. And for those 4 parking stalls, they have put traffic onto 41st Place. My other quick comment is about service vehicles. Service vehicles, we keep hearing that, well, they'll only be able to use the alley. I think we've all had experience with service vehicles, and the men and women who drive those vehicles, they, like everybody else in the world, will take the shortest route home or to their next stop. What I would like is, if this project goes through with the plan that they have, I would like to be able to contact Fairway when I see a service vehicle. Except I don't want to call Fairway, since the service vehicle is coming through and bothering us residentially. I want the residential phone numbers of people from Fairway so I can call them and disturb them at their residences. The house that they're buying, it's a 1938 Beaverdale brick. It was purchased in 1966. The young lady who lives there since then has lived there since 1966. Very nice person. Whatever the proposal was to her, I don't know, and it's none of my business. But I do know that it's affecting the rest of the neighborhood, particularly the red site across the street. Every car that comes out of that parking lot, all the headlights go right to that house. I think the real key here is you want commercial traffic on the commercial streets, Urbandale Avenue and Beaver Avenue. The plan that they had a month and a half ago did that. It kept it off 41st Place, and that is the right plan. This new plan is not the right plan for this neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition?
Madam Chair, there's a Liz Sizer raising her hand. She's able to speak. She's unmuted.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please state your name and address.
My name is Liz Sizer, and I live at 4600 Crestmore Drive, Des Moines, Iowa. I am a longtime Beaverdale resident and am very familiar with this area and this street because I walk in the heart of Beaverdale periodically. And my objection is to this new access point onto 41st Place, which is a very small street, residential, classic architecture that goes back to the beginning of Beaverdale. And even if it's just people in their cars taking that shortcut onto 41st, or service vehicles, or even larger vehicles, that is going to be majorly disruptive to this little street. I attended the quarterly meeting of the BNA when the site plan was first put forth, and like the speaker before me, I was supportive of the concept of the meat market that Fairway was planning, because the emphasis was on minimal to no impact on the neighborhood. Well, this is a historic neighborhood, and this will have major impact. And if there's going to be a meat market here, the access points should be limited to Urbandale and Beaver. And the needs of this authentic historic neighborhood should be preserved. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak in opposition this evening?
Chair, we do have another individual, and if they could go, they've been unmuted, if they could introduce themselves.
Brandusha Velika, and I live at 2721, the neighboring property to 2723.
Yeah. Thank you. Please share your concerns.
Well, first of all, for the record, I want to say that I did send a card in, stating my opposition to the project as it is in its new iteration. And I shared the concerns that were expressed by Lisa and by David. I'm afraid that once this goes through the way it is in its new iteration, there will be no remedy possible if all of our concerns do come to life. Once the property is taken down and the traffic will, as we expect, come on 41st, then there will be no way to go back to the way it was before. It will change the character of the street, which is fully residential. It will be partially commercial. And I don't know what remedy will be, possible for the residents. There's planning on staying here.
Does that complete your remarks?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition? Staff, do you see any others?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers that are neutral to the request? If
I'm not seeing it.
Okay, thank you. If not, then the applicant has 5 minutes for a rebuttal statement.
Go ahead, Kobe.
I'm back on?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thanks for the comments. I'll touch on a couple things. I think maybe the best way to do it is just kind of walk through where it started and how it got to where it is now. I think David's comments on, maybe feeling like there was a bait and switch. I mean, obviously things have changed from the first site plan to the second one, but that was never the plan to begin with. And I think, city staff would agree that we tried to go through every other exercise possible before even entertaining the idea of adding another property. And the first site plan also had 2 access points onto Urbandale, and that was really important to our concept here, having both those access points and being able to access Northwest Beaverdale and being able to have the option for traffic to flow that way as well. And then also, as we're going through the site plan process and as we're starting to see that it's not really shaping up to how we thought, we were also getting other site plan comments to where we were losing some parking stalls. And as we started thinking about how this is going to look with just one access onto Urbandale and reduced parking, there were just some major questions internally on whether it made sense to move forward and get everybody comfortable with that concept, because I think everyone agrees this is a really, really creative parcel and we really wanted to make this work. So the next step was incorporating that next piece and running it through traffic and transportation. Okay, if we can't do this, this, and this, would this be an option? And as you can see, it adds more stalls. It adds the access point onto 41st. And Tim, if you want to comment on this, we're going to try to do everything we can to buffer those immediate neighbors from that access point onto 41st, whether it's extra trees, whether it's extra bushes, a berm. Those are all things we're working through, but our plan is to diminish that effect as much as we can. We're also trying to do that by keeping the 41st Street point as close to the intersection as possible. So I know it's kind of been a long process and adding this extra layer, but that's just kind of a little bit of background on why we got to where we are. And it was not the intent to go this way, but unfortunately it just got to the point where we had to consider it. So I just want to make sure that was clear. Thank you.
And Tim can use the rest of the time for the rebuttal, but
yeah, good evening. Tim West, I'm a landscape architect with Snyder and Associates, 2727 Southwest Snyder Boulevard in Ankeny, Iowa. We have submitted another round of site plan design for city staff to review. We are including a significant amount of landscaping and ornamental or decorative fencing along the right-of-way to screen the parking stalls from the public view. We also have added in 3 trees along the frontage area between the parking and the street, and then there's of course other landscaping that goes around the perimeter of the parking lot. Another important fact that Kobe kind of hit on was we pushed that driveway access as far north as we could, and to still allow some vehicle stacking, so a car can get out of our parking lot and line up perpendicular to the intersection and be able to safely cross that opening. We didn't want to move that towards the south and impact any additional neighbors or any sort of movements that might take it further to the south. So we've tried to work with city staff to minimize any disturbances, yet still be able to access Urbandale Avenue to the west and allow patrons to Fairway to be able to get out and go back home if they live to the west. Thanks, Eric.
So at this time, commissioners, do we have any other questions for city staff? If not, we will close the public hearing and ask commissioners what your thoughts are.
Dory, this is Greg Jones. I'll start. To me, this is a leap too far. It was already iffy to me with the drive through the way they had it. this is no longer an urban solution. This is a suburban solution, and Beaverdale is an urban place. Taking the house down and running a driveway through there, it's, one more house, it's like a death by 1,000 cuts. What's one? Well, it's no big deal, but every time you do it, you're just losing. And so to me, this is a leap too far. I think Fairway has enough of a draw that I don't think they need access. People will drive around the block. I mean, you're going to Beaverdale, you're used to that. To me, I don't think they need it. Again, that's just my opinion, but it seems that the business owners can only see one thing, and it's give us all the possible ways in because someone might have to do something else. We're all used to that. I live in the Beaverdale area. It's no big deal. You go to the hardware store. I pull in one way. I go to the bank. I go to the post office. You're used to doing that, so I don't think it's any big deal. And to me, this is a leap too far, and I can't support it.
Madam Chair, this is Will Page here. I would like to underline what Greg has said. I go to an optometrist in Beaverdale who's using a recycled or an adaptive reuse gas station. When I go to Beaverdale for my eye exam, I know that it's going to take a little bit of time because I park in the space where the pumps at one time were. I know that I'm going to have to take a little time to get there and to park the car. And after the exam, I know it's going to take me a little while to go out of the lot and to find a place to get onto the street. So what I'm saying is when people go to Beaverdale, they know what they're going to find. And my concern about this is twofold. First of all, the impact on the street on 41st itself, but also this proposal, in my opinion, is only going to increase speed. I want to pop in and I want to pop out. And that's not what the neighborhood or the commercial section of Beaverdale is like. So that's my opinion.
Thank you, Will.
Dory, this is Abby. I just want to sort of agree and reiterate what both Greg and Will said. And my initial thought was it's not conducive to the character of this neighborhood, and it's not the type of commercial hub that needs to be expanding into a residential area. And it's more of a pedestrian retail area. And I think that would sort of continuing that little development creep would continue to chip away at that character. So again, I agree with what Greg and Will said.
Thank you, Abby. Is there any other discussion from commissioners? Or is anyone willing to put forth a motion?
Hey, Dory, this is Rocky. We've had situations like this with convenience stores coming in front of us before and neighbors upset. And I'm kind of on the opposite side of this. I think that the applicant and staff have done a real good job of trying to make this site functional and work for everyone. And I actually support staff on this and would be willing to make a motion to move staff.
Thank you, Rocky.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I think that we should break out the items because the land use amendment will require a 2/3 of the quorum present to approve. So
also, Madam Chair, this is Greg. I'd like to offer 2 friendly amendments when the time is appropriate, Rocky.
I'd say go ahead with your friendly amendments.
I'd offer 2 items, if I understand your motion correctly, that the revised site plan would be approved. Is that correct? One would be that all commercial traffic is required to, or not allowed to go through the parking lot and out onto 41st. The second I would offer is that the parking spaces on the far west side that go up towards 41st, that they be held back a minimum setback that's equal to where that side of the existing home is. I don't know that exact number, but whatever that number is, currently the site design has it encroaching a little closer to the street, and I think it should be held back for additional green space. Those are my 2.
Yeah, if Eric could go to their sketch, so we, Greg, if you don't mind, just what was the line?
The first one I think is pretty self-explanatory about no commercial vehicles. The second is you can see where your cursor is. There's at least 1.5 spaces that go beyond the current west side of that home. And I think in order for me to be in support of this parking lot and access going to 41st, I would like the parking pulled back a minimum of what that existing west house is.
Yeah, and Greg, I'm accepting of those amendments. I guess my thing is, are you thinking in your mind signage would be placed on the site to direct traffic and make sure trucks are using the alley?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's like any other zoning enforcement issue. You know, if it becomes a problem, you know, Sue Ann or someone gets called. But the point is I especially don't want, if this were to pass, commercial vehicles going out onto 41st. And
I'm good with that. Yep.
Thank you both. So staff, any other discussion, I should say, to the commissioners? So we have a motion with 2 friendly amendments. And Eric, you should we vote on each part separately?
Well, that's my recommendation, because to approve item B, part B, you will require 9 out of your 13 members to approve it.
This is Jan. Could you, as we vote on these, can you repeat, given the amendment, can you just repeat the motion? Please, thank you.
So I can put part A up, which is the determination of whether the requested rezoning be found in conformance. Staff's recommending that it be found that the existing, the proposed MX3 zoning be found not in conformance with the current low density residential within a neighborhood node.
And so you want us to vote on this item A then?
No, each of the items.
Yes. Well, you could vote A and B together with the recommendation to approve, but realize that the B portion, part B portion, is going to require 9 votes to approve. Otherwise, it's a 6-7 vote for the city council.
If I could, I think the most streamlined process, I think Rocky has made a motion, and what we don't need, we can just break that motion out. I would recommend you splitting A and B apart, because I'm going to assume that A is going to have a different vote total than B. So if we can just do a roll call for A and B, and then when we get to part C, we can refresh the commission's memory on what the recommended conditions are. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
So a motion for approving parts A and B.
No.
No.
We just need a roll call. We've got a motion for all three parts, but I want to break the roll call down. So
I meant vote. Excuse me.
yeah. So
Right.
go ahead, Tyler.
My recommendation was to break the vote on each part. So
okay,
that was
so. Tyler, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. Steve Wallace.
Yes.
Carolyn Jennison.
Yes.
Greg Wattier.
Yes.
Greg Jones.
Yes.
Abby Chungith.
This is just part A of, as to whether or not the land use plan would be.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Yes.
That's okay.
Rocky Sposato.
Yes.
Will Page.
Yes.
Johnny Alcivar.
Yes.
Emily Webb.
Yes.
Dory Briles.
Yes.
Jan Freed.
Yes.
Caleb Berkson.
Yes.
And Lisa Howard.
Yes.
So motion to approve parts A and B carries 13-0.
Just part A.
Not A and B, just part A.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. Now we'll vote on part B on whether or not the commission is recommending amending the future land use map.
Yeah, Jason's breaking up from where I'm at, so I'll part B is a separate vote.
Okay, Lisa Howard.
No.
Caleb Berkson.
No.
Jan Freed.
No.
Dory Briles.
No.
Emily Webb.
No.
Johnny Alcivar.
No.
Will Page.
No.
Rocky Sposato.
Yes.
Abby Chungith.
No.
Greg Jones.
No.
Greg Wattier.
Yes.
Carolyn Jennison.
No.
And Steve Wallace.
No.
So that motion fails 2-11.
And just for the sake of based on that vote, you would not, the rezoning would not be able to go through, but it would be smart to also have a vote on the zoning matter with Greg's friendly amendments.
This is Glenna with the legal department. I'm going to jump in here just for a second, please. Yes, Eric is correct. I would ask that you all please still vote on item C, which is the approval, recommending approval with the conditions, and then also, and also then a reminder that if item C also fails, we always ask you, the legal department always advises that you make an affirmative motion that then could be submitted to council. So in this instance, someone would need to make a motion to deny the rezoning and comp plan amendment. After this next vote, I can go back and clarify that some more if Dory would like for me to do that.
Thank you, Glenna. So, staff, would you want to reread with the amendments?
Yeah, I don't know if people, I'm gonna, let me know if you don't hear me. I'm sitting closer to my computer now. That might have been the problem. But the motion was staff.
Go ahead, Jason.
Well, if you can't hear me, if I'm cutting out, please let me know. Okay. So part C, all right, thank you. It was the staff recommendation with the addition of the prohibition of all commercial traffic onto 41st Street, and that no parking shall be set further or closer to the street, 41st Street, than the house to the south is. So honoring that front yard setback. So that was the motion.
Thank you, Jason. Tyler, I guess we're ready for the vote.
Okay, here we go. Steve Wallace?
Yes.
Carolyn Jennison?
Yes.
Greg Wattier?
Yes.
Greg Jones?
No.
Abby Chungith?
No.
Rocky Sposato?
Yes.
Will Page?
No.
Johnny Alcivar?
No.
Emily Webb?
Yes.
Dory Briles?
Yes.
Jan Fareed?
No.
Kayla Bergson?
No.
Lisa Howard?
No.
So that motion fails 6-7.
So now, as Glenna has asked, we need to have an affirmative motion for the item.
To deny it,
Yes.
deny the rezoning.
Corey, this is Jan. I'll move to deny staff.
Thank you, Jan.
Okay, Lisa Howard?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I apologize. Before the vote is taken, is this for items A, B, and C collectively, or are you splitting them?
I would recommend it be for B and C. I don't know that we need to revote on A. Does that make
Agreed.
sense?
Yes,
Okay.
I do agree. Thank you. So again, each of you that are voting will be voting on B and C to deny staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenna.
So Lisa Howard?
Yes.
Kayla Bergson?
Yes.
Jan Fareed?
Yes.
Dory Briles?
Yes.
Emily Webb?
Yes.
Johnny Alcivar? Johnny? Johnny Alcivar? Okay. Will Page?
Yes.
Rocky Sposato?
No.
Abby Chungith?
Yes.
Greg Jones?
Yes.
Greg Wattier?
No.
Carolyn Jennison?
Yes.
Steve Wallace?
Yes.
And Johnny?
Yes.
With us?
Yep.
Thank you.
Sorry. Yes.
So that motion carries 10-2.
Thank you, Tyler.
Or, yes. Excuse me, 11-2.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now ready for the final, excuse me. We're now ready for the final item. Item number 10, which is a request from Oscar and Enrique Zeteno for the following regarding property located at 2354 East Grand Avenue. And I believe Eric is presenting.
Yes, Madam Chair. Eric Lundy, Senior City Planner. Item 10 is a rezoning request for 2348 and 2354 East Grand Avenue. It is also involves a future land use amendment necessary to determine that an MX3 zoning would be found in conformance with Plan DSM. This has been a similar rezoning by these owners was approved previously. So if you look in your staff report under the zoning history, there was earlier rezoning to do a similar thing with a number of conditions, and that was they did not comply with those conditions. And then when the new zoning ordinance was approved and in effect, this went back to an MX1 designation. So now to move ahead with getting into conformance with zoning, they're now requesting to change the zoning again to the MX3, which would be the designation which would allow for the minor vehicle repair function. I'm trying to get my alignment done here. So I can, there we go. Okay, so the next slide is the view of the site from Grand Avenue, East Grand Avenue. This is more directly on to the operation. Looking a little further to the northwest, which is also part of the site of the land of the rezoning. This is along the west side, the east-west alley that runs along the north side of the property, looking west. And then that's looking southeast, so they at the back of the shop that has overhead doors facing east. They provided a Sanborn fire insurance map from the 1920 that shows the building configuration on the property at that time. This is a site sketch that was provided that would show future layout of the property. And then elevations that were provided with the rezoning application. As I said, that there was a previous rezoning in 2016 with a number of conditions that were recommended at that time. One of them being that it be brought into full conformance within a year in accordance with an approved site plan. A site plan was submitted but was never approved, and they did not do the improvements in accordance with what was submitted as well. So they never complied with the zoning conditions that were approved in 2016. The property was then zoned back, or not back, but to MX1 with the zoning map update for the whole city in December of 2019, and which is puts us where we are. And so that now they are requesting to move forward again with their intentions to improve the site. At this time, staff is fairly concerned about their ability to really follow up on what needs to be done to get this site in conformance and not be a negative impact on the neighborhood. So at this point in time, we're finding that the requested rezoning would not be in conformance with the neighborhood mixed use designation, but then we're also recommending denial of the change to a community mixed use, and therefore also then recommending denial of the rezoning of the property to MX3. We do have cards that were received and communications. So the two in opposition they're at the very edge of the notification area. Not enough opposition though to trigger any type of response. 6-7 vote of the council or anything. So are there any questions of staff at this time about the request? I know that the applicant's representative is here. Todd Von Steen.
Any questions for Eric? If not, we will hear from the applicant. Please state your name and address, and you will have 10 minutes.
Todd Von Steen, the project designer, project manager. I will tell you that since 2016, the applicant or the homeowner, sorry, the property owner is now in a position to follow through on the zoning requirements to get this project done. And I do apologize that they're not available tonight. They're traveling, unfortunately. And if we do need to hear from them, then we can continue this. They were fine with that. However, they're going to follow through with whatever Jillian tells us we need to do. We're going to do it. I mean, I don't know what else to say. This has been an auto service center since the inception of this property. So it just makes sense for it to continue on. Sure, it's been auto service, and it was a transmission shop. Now we're back to auto service. But we only had positive feedback. And the neighbor across the alley, all they asked was that we move the access to the property for them to get their camper out of their property across the alley. And we did that. So we've done everything the neighbor wanted us to do. We're going to do everything the city wants us to do. And actually, they're excited to get moving. They've already started. They got rid of, eliminated one of the street acts. That's approaches to the street is they eliminated that right away. They've got a plan for us to take the pole sign down, make it a monument sign. I mean, these guys are excited about improving their property. So let's just get it done.
Does that conclude your remarks?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else this evening who wishes to speak in support of the request? See any hands?
I do not see any. Yeah. Oh, yes, we do have one, Linda Maxons, putting up her hand. Linda has to unmute.
My name is Lucinda.
Lucinda, I'm sorry, Lucinda.
That's all right. Lucinda Maxon. I live at 2332 East Grand Avenue. Oscar keeps his place clean. There are houses around this property that are in terrible shape. A property across the street from him has vehicles of abundance. And they're not even an automotive shop. I mean, he's doing the best he can. He's trying to make a living. I just don't understand what the issue is. It's nice to have a business close by. So I am fully in support of Oscar. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucinda. Is there anyone else this evening who wishes to speak in support of the request?
I'm not seeing more hands, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition?
Not seeing any hands.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Commissioners, do you have any other questions for staff? If not, we will close the public hearing and like to hear commissioners' thoughts on this matter.
Dory, this is Carolyn, and I apologize. Maybe I should have just asked Eric directly. But what happens to this property if we say no? And I wonder if they did comply to the 2016, what would happen? Would that be a more positive experience and we would allow this rezoning or allow them to continue business?
So do you want me to answer that, Madam Chair? This is Eric.
Yes, please do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So if the city council were to deny the rezoning, they would have the remedy to seek use variance with the Board of Adjustment, where there would be specifically what they're wanting to do as a use, but they would be subject to conditions. Also, the Board of Adjustment would have to find that there's no other use that the property could be used for that to get a reasonable return. So there's some hurdles there that they would have to get the Board of Adjustment to find that they could grant a use variance. The property is zoned MX1, so there's certainly other uses that could renovate the site. And I understand that it was, built for the purpose of a shop or a repair shop. So, but certainly MX1 allows a number of uses that could be developed on the property.
Dory, would it be okay if I just added a couple sentences?
Yes, please.
Yeah, and just expanding upon that, a couple things that led staff to this conclusion of our recommendation is that we're not sure that a land use plan amendment makes sense here for the kind of the broader area. We also took into account for the fact that in 2016, in looking in the file and reflecting on it, there was concerns at that point. Actually, the recommendation out of the commission was to a recommendation of denial. I think when it got to the council level, there was thoughts that, maybe we can give them some time to get their site in order. So the council did approve it with some pretty specific conditions. One of those being that they brought the site into conformance with the site plan within a year. I've just checked back through our code enforcement records. We haven't had a violation or a case this year or in 2020, but we did every year. There was a case in 2019, there was a case in 2018. So although maybe this past year or so things have been operated better, there has been some issues. So when you put that all together, we're pretty reluctant to support a rezoning. I think Eric has laid out a good path that if they are going to move forward and they are going to make improvements, this seems more appropriate as a use variance. And that's staff perspective. We respect whatever the commission comes up with. We'll work with that, not a problem. But I just wanted to give a little context to why we've landed on the recommendation that we did. So thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Any other discussion?
Sorry, this is Jan. I'll move staff.
Thank you, Jan. If there's not further discussion, we could vote on Jan's motion.
All right. Steve Wallace,
Yes.
Carolyn Jennison, Carolyn,
I'm here. No.
Greg Wattier,
Oops, sorry, yes.
thank you. Greg Jones,
Yes.
Abby Chungeth, Abby,
No.
Rocky Sposato,
No.
Will Page,
Yes.
Johnny Alcivar,
No.
Emily Webb,
Yes.
Dory Briles,
Yes.
Jan Freed,
Yes.
Kayla Berkson,
Yes.
and Lisa Howard.
Yes.
Motion carries 9-4.
Thank you, Tyler. That's our final agenda item.
Madam Chair, so just for the benefit of the applicant, this goes on to the City Council for consideration and would require a 6-7 vote based on the recommendation for denial by the Commission.
Thank you, Eric. Are there any reports?
None tonight.
Okay, thank you. Then is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.